Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Grace. I'm a fifth year. And if you weren't aware, today is parking day. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what is parking day and why is it important. So just the general definition of parking day. Parking day is an annual worldwide one-day event where citizens convert metered parking spaces into public parks and open spaces, sometimes referred to as parklets. The day is intended to encourage creative placemaking, particularly in places where access to parks is limited, as well as raise awareness about the importance of green spaces in our communities. So where did it come from? It actually started as an artist installation project in 2005 in San Francisco. The artist group that started it, their name is Rebar, and they are an interdisciplinary group that acts as the intersection of art, design, and activism. And they encompass visual and conceptual public art, landscape design, urban intervention, temporary performance installation, digital media, and print design. The founding members were John Bella, Matthew Passmore, Blaine Merker, and as of 2014, they were no longer active as a group, and they have since gone on to do other stuff. So they actually got a lot of their inspiration for Parking Day from a project from Gordon Matta Clark, who's an artist, and his project was called Fake Estates. So in the 1970s, Gordon Matta Clark discovered that the city of New York periodically auctioned off tiny, frequently inaccessible parcels of land created by urban development. So they were really interested in these spaces, and they bought 15 of them and were interested in these untenable but ownable spaces and what could be done with these spaces. So inspired by Gordon Matta Clark's project, they started to think about small urban areas within their own city. So they began looking for unused space within the city of San Francisco. They realized that metered parking spaces were a really good, cheap real estate investment for a couple of hours. And through looking at data, they found that between 20 to 30% of San Francisco's land area was streets, and that minus the sidewalks, 70 to 80% of that space was dedicated to vehicle movement and vehicular storage. So they started to think about if there were more useful ways of using this land to occupy San Francisco's public realm. So they found a parking spot within the Soma district in San Francisco, and they chose this area because it was known for lacking a lot of green spaces and for being industrial and having a lot of paved areas. So as you can see in the picture below, they converted the spot into a mini park by rolling out some grass, placing a tree, putting a bench, and within minutes of the installation, a man joined the park and began to eat his lunch. And later another person joined and began having a conversation. So it was only a 2-hour experiment, but really left a message and led a movement. So these were some early conceptual sketches of what the parking space could be. They went through a lot of really fun ideas. They played with doing an office space, a swimming pool, an aquarium, a bed, an urban forest, a cabaret. So they were really just testing out what the space could be. So after that first installation, people found out about it and were really interested in bringing it and incorporating it into their own cities. And so in 2006, in partnership with the Trust for Public Land, Parking Day was launched as an annual event for people to reclaim urban spaces from cars. In 2007, the event expanded to be more than 200 parks, and in 2008, it expanded to be part of the Venice Architecture Biennale. In 2009, inspired by Parking Day, the New York City Temporary Plaza Program representatives of the Department of Greening commissioned rebar as well as other designers to create a more permanent version of the parklet. And that became known as a walklet, which was just a permanent version. And in 2011, Parking Day was included almost 1,000 parks in 35 countries. So these are some maps that can be found on the official Parking Day website. Some of the numbers I think are a little bit skewed just because to be on the website you have to actually register officially, and my guess is that not everyone officially registers. So this is Parking Day in 2008. You can see there's people all over the world. There's people in England, people in Australia, India, all across the US. This is Parking Day in 2015. Australia, across the US, there's across Europe. And Parking Day last year, where you can see it started in South America, Asia, Europe again, across the US. So here are some examples of what other cities have done for Parking Day. So this was an installation in Nashville, Tennessee, where their concept was around creating a bottle park by using old water bottles as a screen. This is in Atlanta, Georgia, where they laid out some turf grass and had people sit in the streets and kind of reclaim that space. This is an installation from the California ASLA chapter. This one was more based in an activism approach, looking at water resources, how we use it. This one is close by in Arlington, where it looks like they use recycling bins and cranes. This is a fun one that was in Illinois chapter of ASLA, where they created this wheel that you could get in and spin around. These are some examples from Houston. This was the University of Houston in 2014. So they used some turf, or I guess they used actual grass, and then some slates, some pallets to create a nice barrier. And it looks like in downtown Houston, they created this modular system. Has a cool edge. This one was in Seattle, Washington. A local landscape architecture firm designed this one. They used pallets to kind of create an elevated boardwalk, which is a really cool idea. Bethesda, Maryland. Looks like they made a little putt-putt course. Austin, Texas. Washington, D.C. Looks like they made a little dog park area, which is fun. Minnesota ASLA chapter, again using wood to create nice edges, and a lot of vegetation as well. So these are just some general guidance about how to plan for Parking Day. We don't have to go through all of it, but I figured I just include it if you want to learn. So choosing the spot, find a metered parking spot in a location where people can find and interact with it. Building materials, so they recommend not using real grass. Get creative, have fun with it. Think about how you will reuse these materials after the event. Seating, the more seating you provide, the greater chance of unplanned intervention among visitors. Shade, important. Enclosure, signs and awareness of what you're doing. And change if you're paying for the meter. And And this is for planning the event. So, what is Parking Day at Virginia Tech? So we have, I think 2020 was the one year that we didn't do it the last couple of years because of COVID. But this is kind of some of the things we've done in the past. This is 2018. I'm sure you don't recognize these faces. They're long gone now. But they had some pallets. They made some benches. Looks like they displayed some landscape architecture magazines. This was in 2019. You do recognize some of these people. This was a fun year where they created this wall and you could make little ornaments that had greenery in them. It was a fun little interactive activity. And 2021, which was last year. And I know you guys I wasn't here for it, but I heard you guys had a design challenge about how to get people with the bucket toss game. So why is Parking Day important? So Parking Day has helped start other movements. It was big in starting San Francisco's Pavement to Parks program, which is now known as Ground Play. So these are some of the installations that they have done as an organization. This is a parket at Luna Rian Gallery, where they use wood to create these cool art installations that have some plants in them as well. This is a parklet in Buena Vista Horace Mann School that teaches kids about water usage and is really interactive for community members. And this is a coffee parklet, which is just a nice space for people to, again, kind of take back the street as a civic space. It was also big in creating parklet movements in Chicago as well. These are some parklets that were created in Andersonville, Chicago, as a result of Parking Day. Also, I want to talk to you about Parking Day as a form of activism. So, how Parking Day can question how public space is created and allocated, rethinking what space is important to our city, and how much land do we allocate to cars versus people in the civic realm. How public space contributes to quality of life and community. Parking Day has helped question what it means to have civic outdoor spaces within our neighborhoods and communities, and really bring into consideration how big those spaces really need to be effective and to have people interact. Also, it's a great form of advocacy for landscape architecture as a profession. It's a great way to advocate for what we do as landscape architects and why it's important. So, Parking Day today will be on College Avenue between 6 and 9. We'll have snacks and cornhole, so we hope you guys can come out. So that's my...
Greens. It's going to be a lot of
yes,
fun.
yes. And we're doing it at night this year, which is the first time ever. So we'll have lights, and it'll be a fun time. So thank you, guys. Who's putting it on? Yeah. ASLA, Virginia Tech.
Who's your volunteer team?
Volunteer team is pretty much our committee. But anyone that wants to come out and help, I'll be setting up around 4:30. So.
Because if you need a real player ask for help, this would be the time to do it.
Okay. Any questions?
So Parking Day started by, so Grace told you who the people were, but they were master's students in the landscape architecture program at UC Berkeley. This was something that they just did because they thought it was an interesting kind of problem or issue in the built environment. And they went on after they graduated to start the firm Rebar, which then looked at other underutilized public spaces all across the city of San Francisco, which has an amazing collection of them, some of which are in buildings. But as part of the permit process, you had to have publicly accessible spaces in the buildings, so they mapped them so that there were then places to take a nap, because it was inside, out of the rain. And then they went on to do and to inspire a lot of other projects that were really about trying to get, trying to raise the awareness of the value of outdoor spaces, and not just for the car. So the play on the words, I think, is really kind of nice. We call a park the place where we put our car, and the drive is the place where we park our car too. It's kind of interesting on massive things.
Wait, Grace. So, like in the photos you showed, did those parking spaces like permanently turn into those things, or were those just temporary?
So the parking day photos I showed you, those were temporary, but they helped a lot of cities see how those spaces could be utilized, and so a lot of them were later turned into permanent parklets that were there forever. So.
During COVID, like, it was very evident that you could see this type of design was super prevalent in big cities, like looking at New York or LA, like improving the opportunity to get outside, especially during a time when nobody could.
Even like an example locally, if you go to Gilbert Street, which is where like the North End Center is, there's a lot of examples along that road where they've taken over the parallel parking right next to those restaurants and stuff for seating outdoors.
Is there any financial support for Parking Day, or just all money is just from the donations, or?
Financial support. A lot of the stuff we got for free for Parking Day, but whatever like small things we had to pick up, we're just taking it out. We have a budget for ASLA, so.
But also when you state your cause and it's like a noble school operation or organization, then more likely than not local businesses will spare materials or things that you're looking for.
Exactly.
So who sponsored you this year? Anyone? Not yet?
Not really. We got some pallets from some local stores, but it's not a formal sponsorship, I guess.
Materials as sponsors. You asked, you got, right?
There you go. That's true.
So how many of you are going to go and participate in Parking Day this year? It's easy. I mean,
Yeah.
It's prime time downtown.
I
Just
know.
walk out, get some food, and stop by.
Enjoy the bikes.
Exactly.
The
We'll have
weather's
some
good.
music. It'll be fun.
Go home,
He likes that.